Question number 5 is, am I making life difficult for my users? What does that mean? So you know how when you go and buy a laptop, you think about how much RAM is there in this laptop? How much memory does it have? Essentially, you're looking at, how many large programs can I run simultaneously and have my laptop still working smoothly and not freezing on me? That's essentially what that question is. And this is also what you should ask when you're designing apps for your users. As humans, we also have a limited amount of RAM. And as designers, we should treat that RAM with respect. We should try and minimize our toll on the user's brain. So just as when we're programming, we're trying to make our code as lightweight, as efficient as possible, when we're designing, we're trying to make the interface as clear and as least confusing as possible for our users. So let me illustrate what I mean. We've all seen these horrendous password rules when you're trying to sign up to some website and they ask you to create a new password. Now, this particular one is pretty bad. They have, 8 rules. So your password has to include uppercase, lowercase, number, symbol, 8 to 13 characters long, no dictionary words, no more than 3 adjacent or repeated keys. So I probably could come up with a password that fits all of these rules, but I will never ever remember it. And this is that product asking to put a huge toll on my brain. Now, very often when I come across these types of account sign up password rules, I think to myself, I'm not signing up for a job at MI5. I'm not signing up for the CIA. Why does it need to be so secure? Now, of course, security is really important, and especially with payment details. But at the same time, if I'm signing up for something like a service that helps you find dogs nearby to walk, do the password rules really need to be so stringent? And very often when you're designing product, you'll notice that when the password rules get too complicated and you overload a user's brain, making them think that this is way too much effort, you'll see that your signups drop off. And so there is a happy medium between keeping that password secure and encouraging your users to sign on. So I would urge you, especially if you're making a product that doesn't require any payment details, any personally identifiable information, then just try and make your password rules as tolerant, as forgiving as possible. Now, the app equivalent to this is huge onboarding tutorials. Now, in order to use this app, you have to first get through 9 screens of tutorials, each telling you how to use the app. Now, firstly, most users, you and I included, will probably just go skip until the end. We wouldn't have learned anything and it would have annoyed us ever so slightly. So you don't want to start off on the wrong foot with your users. Instead, what you want to do is you want to give people tidbits of information as and when is needed. So make it contextual. For example, when you download the Todoist app, on the home page, if there are no tasks, then the first time you open up this app, it'll give you a slight hint saying, hey, if you press over here, you can add a task. And when you do that, it'll give you another pointer saying, if you tap here, you can see more options. Now, these tips and hints are contextual. They are relevant to the task at hand. And for those people who are interested in accelerated learning or teaching methods, the most important thing is showing somebody something just as and when they need it and getting them to do it, to repeat that task. This is something that we embrace in our curriculum. For example, we have tutorial apps that teach you how to code up a certain functionality. You see me doing it, you see me explaining how it works, and then the next step is you have to do it yourself. You have to solidify that knowledge by carrying out a task. And this is how you want to teach users to use your app. Don't overload their brain with loads of information at the beginning. This is called front loading, and it's really bad for teaching people. So tread gently on your user's brain. Try to minimize the effort that they need to put in order to learn how to use your app. Now, another way that you can overload a user's brain is with confusion tactics. Now, what I mean by this is the ATM pin pad of or Barclays ATMs across the UK. Now, the key thing that has changed over the last few years compared to previously is this button right here. This button used to say clear, and that makes a whole lot of sense because when you type in your PIN and you press this button, it's essentially the backspace. It deletes your PIN so that you can enter it again. And that button should be labeled clear because that's what you're doing. You're clearing the PIN so that the user can enter it again. But recently they decided to change this to the word error. I do not know why, but this is really confusing because I'm at an ATM where I'm already paranoid because the machine's telling me, look behind your shoulders, see if somebody's stealing your PIN, and then cover your PIN. And it's a very stressful situation, actually. And now I've entered the wrong PIN because I'm stressed, and I'm looking at this PIN pad and I can't see a clear button or a backspace sign. And all I see is this error. And I'm so confused. I'm thinking, if I press this button, is the alarm bells gonna ring? What kind of error am I trying to report? So don't confuse your users. Try to make your wording as clear as possible. And this is the app equivalent of that real life example. Now, all of us are used to this idea that when we pull and we release, we are releasing to refresh. It's the same in Facebook, it's the same in Twitter, it's the same in Instagram, it is the same everywhere. This is a pattern that has become ingrained in all of our brains. Now, there was an app called Seed, which decided that it was going to teach us a new trick. And instead of pulling to refresh, they decided that you should pull and release to add a reminder in the app. And this was as confusing as hell. Nobody really understood this. And in the second version of this app, they actually scrapped it entirely. But the damage was already done. They lost users based on this anti-pattern. When something is so ingrained, such as pull to refresh or pinch to zoom, you can't try and map that onto something else. It'll cause a lot of confusion. And humans generally don't like being confused. They'll associate negative feelings with your app. And so try and avoid confusing users if you can.